Kang Do-yun pressed the medical scanner against the wounded soldier's chest and watched the readings flicker across the screen. The Krathian warrior groaned. His thick reptilian scales cracked and bleeding from the raider attack. Around them, the outpost's medical bay buzzed with activity as doctors and nurses rushed between beds filled with injured personnel. "You will live," Do-yun said quietly, injecting a painkiller into the soldier's arm. The Krathian turned his large yellow eyes toward him and snorted. "Weak, human hands," the soldier muttered. "Should be warrior, not this." Do-yun had heard it 1,000 times before. In the Galactic Coalition, strength meant everything. The ability to fight, to kill, to dominate. Humans had joined the Alliance 5 years ago. And in those 5 years, they had been labeled the weakest race. Slow reflexes compared to the Krathians. Fragile bodies compared to the stone-skinned Thoraxians. Short lifespans compared to the ancient Veltari. He finished treating the soldier and moved to the next bed. His hands were steady, even though exhaustion pulled at his bones. He had been working for 16 hours straight since the attack began. The raiders had hit Outpost Theta 7 hard, trying to breach the defensive perimeter. They failed, but not before causing significant damage. "Do-yun," a voice called across the medical bay. He looked up to see Park Min-ha jogging toward him, her engineering uniform covered in grease and burn marks. She was his oldest friend, someone he had known since childhood back on Earth. While he had chosen the path of medicine, she had become a combat engineer. "You look terrible," she said, handing him a nutrition bar. "I feel terrible," he admitted, taking a bite. The artificial flavors did nothing to satisfy his hunger, but it would keep him going. "Commander Vex Thor is looking for you," Min-ha said, her expression darkening. "He's not happy." Do-yun sighed. Commander Vex's Thor, a massive Krathian who stood nearly 8 feet tall, was the military leader of the outpost. He had made it clear from day one that he considered humans a liability. Dead weight that the coalition had accepted out of political necessity rather than actual value. "What did I do now?" Do-yun asked. "During the attack, you ran into the crossfire to pull out a civilian child. A Veltari kid who got separated from their parents." Min-ha crossed her arms. "Command says you disobeyed direct orders to fall back." Do-yun remembered the moment clearly. The child had been screaming, trapped behind an overturned cargo container, while plasma bolts cut through the air. Everyone else had retreated to defensive positions. He could not just leave the child there to die. "The kid is alive," Do-yun said simply. "That is not the point," Min-ha replied, though her voice was gentle. "You could have been killed. And for what? One life? One life matters," Do-yun said. Min-ha looked at him for a long moment, then shook her head. "You are too soft for this place, Do-yun. The coalition does not value softness. They value strength and survival." Before Do-yun could respond, the medical bay doors slid open with a hiss. Commander Vex Thor entered, his heavy footsteps echoing across the floor. Every person in the bay straightened, showing respect to the superior officer. Do-yun set down his medical scanner and turned to face him. "Medic Kang," Vex Thor's voice rumbled like distant thunder. "You are to report to my office immediately." "Yes, Commander," Do-yun said. He followed the massive Krathian out of the medical bay and through the outpost's steel corridors. Other personnel stepped aside as they passed, giving the commander a wide berth. Vex Thor said nothing until they reached his office, a sparse room dominated by tactical displays and weapon racks. "Do you understand why you are here?" Vex Thor asked, settling into his reinforced chair. "Because I saved a child during the attack," Do-yun answered. "You disobeyed orders," Vex Thor corrected. "You broke formation. You endangered the defensive line for one insignificant target." "The child was not insignificant," Do-yun said, keeping his voice level. "They were terrified and alone." Vex Thor's eyes narrowed. "This is exactly why humans are weak. You let emotion cloud judgment. You prioritize individual sentiment over tactical necessity. In war, such thinking gets people killed. In war, forgetting why we fight gets us killed, Do-yun replied. We are not protecting territory or resources. We are protecting people. If we cannot save a child, what is the point? An-nada-zing quid. An-nada-zing quid. The commander stood, his full height towering over Do-yun. For a moment, the human thought he might be struck, but Vex-Thor simply shook his head. You are assigned to medical duties only. No patrol, no combat support. You will remain in the medical bay, where your compassion cannot jeopardize military operations. Vex-Thor waved a clawed hand dismissively. Dismissed. Do-yun left the office, his jaw tight. He walked back through the corridors, passing windows that looked out onto the harsh alien landscape. Outpost Theta 7 sat on the edge of Coalition territory, near what they called the Forbidden Zone. It was a region of dead planets and asteroid fields that even the raiders avoided. Strange energy readings, ships that entered and never returned. The Coalition had placed warning beacons throughout the area. When Do-yun returned to the medical bay, Minha was waiting. How bad? She asked. Confined to medical duties. No field work. She touched his shoulder. Maybe that is for the best. Let the warriors do warrior things. You do what you do best, saving lives. Do-yun nodded, but something felt hollow inside. He had not joined the Coalition to be locked away. He had joined because he believed in something bigger. A universe where different races worked together, where understanding mattered more than conquest. But maybe he was wrong. Maybe in this vast, violent galaxy, there was no place for someone like him. Someone who still believed that compassion was a strength, not a weakness. He looked out the window again at the stars beyond, unaware that his belief was about to be tested in ways he could never imagine. 3 days after the raider attack, Do-yun was finishing his shift in the medical bay when he noticed something strange. A trail of dark blue fluid led from one of the emergency exits toward the outpost perimeter. He knelt down and touched it with his gloved finger. The scanner on his wrist beeped rapidly. Unknown biological compound. No match in Coalition database. His curiosity pushed aside his fatigue. The trail was fresh, maybe only a few hours old. Something had come through here. Something wounded and bleeding. He should report it to security. That was protocol. But security would send a kill team, and whatever was bleeding might just need help. Do-yun checked his medical kit, made sure his scanner was charged, and followed the trail. The path led him past the defensive perimeter and toward the Forbidden Zone. Warning signs flashed in the growing darkness. Automated voices reminded him that unauthorized entry was prohibited. He disabled his location beacon. If command knew where he was going, they would order him back immediately. The terrain grew rougher as he moved away from the outpost. Jagged rocks jutted from the ground like broken teeth. The blue blood trail continued, growing heavier. Whatever was bleeding was getting worse. Do-yun moved faster, his medical training overriding the small voice in his head that said this was dangerous. After an hour of hiking, he found a cave entrance partially hidden behind fallen boulders. The blood trail disappeared inside. Do-yun pulled out a light stick, cracked it, and stepped into the darkness. The cave was deeper than he expected. His footsteps echoed off stone walls, covered in strange crystalline formations that glowed faintly. The air was cold and smelled like copper and something else he could not identify. He followed the trail deeper until the cave opened into a larger chamber. That was when he saw it. The creature was massive, easily 9 feet tall, even while lying on its side. Its body was covered in obsidian black scales that seemed to absorb light. 6 eyes arranged in 2 rows across its elongated head were closed. Retractable claws, each as long as Do-yun's forearm, extended from its hands. A long, muscular tail curled around its body. Blue blood pooled beneath it. Every instinct in Do-yun's body screamed at him to run. This was a predator. An apex predator unlike anything in the Coalition database. It could kill him without effort. But his medical training saw past the danger to the suffering. The creature's breathing was shallow and labored. Its scales had lost their luster. Dark veins spread across its body in web-like patterns. Poisoning. Advanced stage. Do-Yun approached slowly, each step deliberate. If the creature woke suddenly, he would die before he could take another breath. He set down his medical kit and pulled out his advanced scanner. The readings confirmed his diagnosis. A rare toxin was shutting down the creature's organs one by one. He had maybe 3 hours to save it. Do-Yun worked quickly, setting up a portable medical station. He identified the toxin type and began mixing an antidote. His hands moved with practiced precision, measuring compounds and adjusting ratios. The creature did not move, but he could feel something watching him. 2 of the 6 eyes had opened slightly. They glowed with an eerie golden light in the darkness. Do-Yun froze, his heart hammering in his chest. The eyes watched him with an intelligence that was undeniable. This was no mindless beast. This was a thinking, reasoning being. "I am trying to help you," Do-Yun said softly, not sure if the creature could understand. "The poison is killing you. Please, let me finish." The eyes continued to watch but did not move. Do-Yun took that as permission. He injected the first dose of antidote directly into the creature's bloodstream, then set up an IV drip to deliver the rest over time. He cleaned the wounds, applied synthetic skin to stop the bleeding, and monitored vital signs. Hours passed. Do-Yun's own exhaustion threatened to overwhelm him, but he fought through it. He had committed to this. He would see it through. Slowly, the dark veins began to recede. The creature's breathing became stronger and more regular. The blue blood flow stopped. Finally, as dawn light began to filter into the cave entrance, Do-Yun collapsed against the cave wall. His medical kit was empty. His body ached. But the creature would live. The 6 eyes opened fully now, all of them focusing on him. The creature shifted, raising its massive head. Do-Yun tensed, but did not run. There was nowhere to go anyway. If this being wanted him dead, he was dead. The creature's mouth opened, revealing rows of sharp teeth. Then it spoke. The voice was deep and resonant, speaking in broken Coalition standard. "Why? Heal enemy?" Do-Yun blinked in surprise. It could speak. It knew Coalition language. This changed everything. "You are not my enemy," Do-Yun said carefully. "You were dying. I am a medic. I help those who are hurt." The creature tilted its head, studying him with an intensity that made Do-Yun feel completely exposed. All others would kill Vralkan on sight. You. Different. Vralkan. So, that was what this species was called. Do-Yun filed the name away. "I am human," Do-Yun said. "We believe life is valuable. All life." The Vralkan made a sound that might have been laughter or agreement. It slowly pushed itself into a sitting position, movements still careful from the poison's effects. "I am Krath," the creature said. "Hunter of the deep void, seeker of worthy prey." Those golden eyes fixed on Do-Yun. "You are prey species. Soft, weak, fragile, yet you save predator. Why?" Do-Yun thought about the question. He could give a dozen medical or ethical reasons, but he settled on the simplest truth. "Because you were dying," he said, "and I could help. That is enough reason." Krath was silent for a long moment. Then he extended one massive clawed hand toward Do-Yun. The human thought for a moment he was about to be grabbed, but Krath's hand stopped. Palm up. An offering. "You show strength of mercy," Krath said. "Rarest strength in galaxy. Hardest strength to find." The Vralkan's eyes seemed to glow brighter. Krath owes life debt to soft human, who should be prey but is not. Do-Yun did not fully understand what that meant, but he sensed it was important. He reached out and carefully placed his much smaller hand on Krath's palm. The scales were warm and smooth. "I am glad you will live," Do-yun said. "Small, soft human," Krath rumbled. "You have changed much. Return to Metal Den before others worry." "Krath will remember." Do-yun gathered his empty medical kit and stood on shaking legs. As he walked toward the cave entrance, he looked back once. Krath watched him go, all 6 eyes glowing in the dim light. The walk back to the outpost felt like a dream. Do-yun's mind raced with questions. Who were the Vralkan? Why were they in the Forbidden Zone? What did Krath mean by life debt? But one thought rose above all others. He had just made first contact with an apex predator species, and instead of violence, there had been understanding. Maybe, just maybe, that meant something important. Do-yun's unauthorized trip into the Forbidden Zone did not go unnoticed for long. The outpost's security systems detected his disabled beacon, and when he returned, security personnel were waiting. Within an hour, he stood in Commander Vexthor's office again. But this time the atmosphere was far more serious. "You disabled your location beacon and entered a restricted zone," Vexthor said, his voice cold with controlled anger. "You violated 3 separate protocols. This is not compassion, Medic Kang. This is insubordination. I found an injured being." Do-yun tried to explain. "I provided medical treatment." In the Forbidden Zone. Without authorization. Without backup." Vexthor's clawed fist slammed on the desk. "You could have been killed. You could have led hostile forces back to this outpost. Your actions were reckless and dangerous." Captain Choi Sung, one of the senior human officers, stood to the side with his arms crossed. His expression was unreadable. Beside him, Lee Jiwoo, the station's xenobiologist, watched with concern. "What species did you encounter?" Jiwoo asked. "I do not know," Do-yun said, which was technically true. He had a name, Vralkan, but he had no data on them. The scanner could not identify it. "Description," Vexthor demanded. Before Do-yun could answer, alarms suddenly blared throughout the outpost. Red warning lights flashed. A voice came over the communication system. "Unidentified vessel approaching. All personnel to defensive stations. This is not a drill. I see. Everyone in the office rushed to the command center. The main view screen showed a ship unlike anything in Coalition records. It was organic in appearance. All flowing curves and dark surfaces. It moved through space with predatory grace. "Weapons charged," Vexthor ordered. "Prepare to..." "Wait," Jiwoo interrupted, staring at her scanner. "It is broadcasting a signal. It is asking for Medic Kang Do-yun by name." All eyes turned to Do-yun. His stomach dropped. He knew who it was. "Let me talk to them," Do-yun said quickly. "They are not hostile." "How do you know that?" Captain Choi demanded. "Because I saved one of them," Do-yun admitted. Vexthor's eyes widened with fury. But before he could speak, the view screen changed. Krath's face appeared. All 6 golden eyes, staring directly at them. Every person in the command center took an involuntary step back. Even Vexthor, who had faced countless battles, looked shaken. "I am Krath, hunter of the Vralkan," the deep voice rumbled through the speakers. "I come to speak with the healer Do-yun. This outpost is Coalition territory," Vexthor said, recovering his composure. Krath's eyes focused on the commander with unsettling intensity. "Intentions are clear. Speak with Do-yun. Give honor that is owed. You may land 1 shuttle," Vexthor said carefully. "You will be escorted at all times. Any aggressive action will be met with lethal force." "Acceptable," Krath replied. The screen went dark. 30 minutes later, Do-yun stood in the main hangar bay with Commander Vexthor, Captain Choi, Lee Jiwoo, and a full security team of 20 heavily armed soldiers. Park Minha had insisted on being there as well, standing close to Doyun with her hand near her sidearm. The shuttle landed with barely a sound. When the ramp lowered, Krath emerged. In the bright lights of the hangar, he was even more impressive and terrifying. His obsidian scales reflected the light like liquid shadow. Every movement was controlled power. Behind him, 2 other Vralkan followed, slightly smaller, but no less intimidating. Krath walked directly toward Doyun, ignoring the weapons pointed at him. He stopped 3 feet away and looked down at the human. "You keep your word, small healer," Krath said. "You did not speak of our meeting." "I tried not to," Doyun admitted. But circumstances changed. Krath's attention turned to the assembled coalition personnel. "Vralkan have watched your alliance for many cycles. We see only conquest, only strength, through domination, only taking." His golden eyes swept across them all. "Then we meet this one, Doyun, who shows strength of mercy, who risks self for stranger, who heals enemy." "We are not enemies," Doyun said quietly. "No," Krath agreed. "We are not." He turned back to Doyun and slowly lowered himself to one knee, bringing his massive head level with the humans. "I come to give honor, to perform sacred rite never given to outsider, to name you blood brother of Vralkan." A shocked silence filled the hangar. Li Jiwu gasped. Even Vex Thor looked stunned. "What does that mean?" Captain Choi asked. One of the other Vralkan stepped forward. "It means he is clan. It means he is protected by all Vralkan. It means attack on him is attack on us." The second Vralkan's voice was slightly higher, possibly female. "It is highest honor we can give." "I do not understand," Doyun said. "I only did what any medic would do." "No," Krath said firmly. "Any medic would report to superiors. Any medic would send warriors. Any medic would let Krath die, rather than risk self. You chose different path. You chose hard path. You chose mercy when mercy was foolish." Krath reached to his belt and pulled out a blade made of dark metal. "You ready?" Doyun's heart raced, but he nodded. Krath drew the blade across his palm. Blue blood welled up. Then he held out the blade to Doyun. The human took it with trembling hands and mimicked the action, cutting his own palm. Red blood mixed with the pain. Krath pressed his massive palm against Doyun's smaller one. Their blood mingled together, blue and red becoming purple where they touched. "By blood we bind," Krath said in a ceremonial tone. "By honor we swear. By strength of mercy we unite. Doyun of humans, you are blood brother to Krath of Vralkan. Our enemies are your enemies. Our protection is your protection. Our strength is your strength." The other 2 Vralkan touched their fists to their chests in what seemed to be a salute. Krath released Doyun's hand and stood. He turned to address Commander Vex Thor and the assembled personnel. "Vralkan have tested coalition for many cycles," Krath announced. "We watch. We wait. We seek race worthy of alliance. We seek strength that is more than violence." His 6 eyes seemed to glow brighter. "We find it not in warriors. We find it in healer, who should be weak but is not. Humans show us new strength. Strength we thought lost in galaxy." "Are you saying the Vralkan wish to ally with the coalition?" Jiwu asked, her voice shaking with excitement. "We wish to ally with humans," Krath corrected. "If humans are part of coalition, then we consider. But humans must lead. Humans must show other races what true strength means." Vex Thor looked at Doyun with an expression the human could not quite read. Was it respect? Confusion? Resentment? Maybe all 3. "This will need to go through official channels," Captain Choi said. "The Coalition Council will need to review." "We speak with humans," Krath interrupted. "Not council. We choose. Our choice is made." He looked down at Doyun again. "You carry mark of Vralkan now. Blood brother. Others of my kind will know. They will honor bond. Some may test you. That is our way. But you are protected. Doyun looked at his palm, where the cut was already beginning to close. The blood had left a faint purple stain on his skin that did not wash away. "Thank you," Doyun said, not sure what else to say. "I am honored." Krath made that sound that might have been laughter. "You should be. But honor brings duty. You are bridge now between humans and Vral Khan. Your choices matter. Your actions speak for your race." He paused. With that, Krath and his companions returned to their shuttle. Within minutes, they were gone, leaving the hangar bay in stunned silence. Park Minha was the first to speak. "Did that really just happen?" "I think," Li Jiwoo said slowly. "We just witnessed first contact with an apex predator species. And they chose to ally with us because one medic showed them compassion." Commander Vexus Thor said nothing. He simply stared at Doyun for a long moment, then turned and walked away. Captain Choi approached Doyun and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Your life just got a lot more complicated," he said. "But maybe you just changed everything for humanity." Doyun looked down at his stained palm and wondered if he was ready for what came next. The news of Krath's blood brother ceremony spread through the coalition like wildfire. Within days, Doyun found himself transported to Coalition Central Command for diplomatic meetings. Representatives from dozens of species wanted to understand what had happened. Some were excited about a potential alliance with the mysterious Vral Khan. Others were suspicious and worried. Doyun stood before the Coalition Council, a massive chamber where delegates from hundreds of worlds gathered. He felt small and out of place in his simple medical uniform. Captain Choi and Li Jiwoo flanked him for support, but the weight of countless eyes pressed down on him. Medic Kang, the council speaker, an ancient Veltari, said in a voice like wind through caves, "You have done something unprecedented. The Vral Khan are legendary. They have never contacted any civilization. Yet they choose you, a human, as blood brother. Why?" Doyun thought carefully before answering. "Because I helped one who was hurt. Nothing more complicated than that." "There must be more," a Krathian delegate insisted. "The Vral Khan are apex predators. They respect only strength and dominance. How did you demonstrate such qualities?" "Maybe," Doyun said slowly, "their definition of strength is different from ours." Before the discussion could continue, the chamber's main entrance opened. 6 Vral Khan entered, moving with silent grace that seemed impossible for beings their size. Krath led them, but Doyun immediately noticed another Vral Khan who moved with even more authority. This one had silver markings on their scales and scars that spoke of countless battles. "I am Shalrax," the scarred Vral Khan announced, his voice deeper and harder than Krath's. "Elder Hunter, keeper of the old ways." His 6 eyes fixed on Doyun with open hostility. "I challenge Krath's decision. I challenge Krath's." Krath stepped forward, positioning himself between Shalrax and Doyun. "Challenge is your right, Elder. State your terms." "This human is weak," Shalrax said, gesturing dismissively at Doyun. "Soft prey species with soft prey thinking. Blood brother ceremony is sacred. It should not be wasted on one who cannot survive, who cannot show true strength." "Doyun showed strength of mercy," Krath argued. "Rarest strength there is." "Mercy is weakness wearing mask," Shalrax countered. "I demand proof. 3 trials, as tradition requires. If human survives and shows true strength, I accept bond. If human fails, bond is broken, and humans lose Vral Khan alliance." The council chamber erupted in worried murmurs. Captain Choi stepped forward. "What kind of trials?" 2 Vral Khan trials," Shalrax said simply. "Designed for warriors of our kind. Survival. Cunning. Heart." His eyes never left Doyun. "Each trial meant to reveal truth of what you are. Pass all 3. You prove worth. Fail anyone. You die." Doyun felt his blood run cold. He was a medic, not a warrior. These trials were designed for apex predators. He had no chance. But then he looked at Krath, who watched him with those golden eyes. He thought about what this alliance could mean for humanity, for the coalition, for the future. Sometimes the right choice was not the safe choice. I accept, Do-yoon said, surprised by the steadiness in his own voice. Captain Choi grabbed his arm. Do-yoon. No. This is suicide. Let the diplomats handle it. If I refuse, humanity looks weak. Do-yoon said quietly. Everything Krath saw in me will be questioned. I have to do this. Lee Ji-woo looked like she wanted to argue, but Park Min-ha's voice came from behind them. She had arrived with the human delegation. Then we make sure he has every advantage we can give him, Min-ha said firmly. If they are testing him, we prepare him. Shalrax made a sound of contempt. Prey species helping prey species. It changes nothing. Trials begin in 3 cycles. He turned and left, followed by 4 of the Vralkan. Only Krath remained. I am sorry, little brother, Krath said to Do-yoon. Shalrax is old, traditional. He fears change. He fears that mercy will make us weak. Will the trials really kill me? Do-yoon asked. They are designed to kill Vralkan who are not strong enough, Krath admitted. For human, they are much harder. But you have something Shalrax does not understand. You have mind that thinks different. You have heart that chooses hard path. Maybe that is enough. The next 3 days were the most intense of Do-yoon's life. Park Min-ha worked with him on survival skills. Lee Ji-woo researched everything known about Vralkan culture, looking for clues about the trials. Captain Choi arranged for combat training. Though everyone knew Do-yoon could not match a Vralkan in physical strength, do not try to fight like them, Min-ha advised. Fight like you. Think like you. Use what you know. When the day came, Do-yoon was transported to a Vralkan ship in orbit. The interior was dark, lit by bioluminescent strips that gave everything an eerie glow. Hundreds of Vralkan gathered in a massive chamber to witness the trials. Their eyes reflected the light like stars. Shalrax stood in the center. First trial. Survival. You will enter the Death Hollows, a cave system on our homeworld. It is filled with predators and traps. No weapons. Reach the exit within 1 solar cycle or die inside. Do-yoon was taken to a shuttle and dropped at the entrance to a massive cave system. The moment he stepped inside, he understood why it was called the Death Hollows. Bioluminescent creatures crawled along the walls, their light revealing passages that branched in every direction. Strange clicking sounds echoed through the darkness. Something howled in the distance. He had his medical kit, his scanner, and his mind. That would have to be enough. Do-yoon moved carefully, scanning everything. The creatures were territorial and reacted to movement and sound. His medical training helped him identify which ones were venomous, which ones were aggressive. He used chemical compounds from his kit to mask his scent. He moved slowly, deliberately, avoiding, rather than confronting. Hours passed. His body ached. His mind screamed at him to rest. But rest meant death. He reached a section where the path was blocked by a nest of creatures with razor-sharp limbs. Fighting them was impossible. Then he noticed something. The creatures reacted strongly to certain light frequencies. Using components from his medical scanner, he created a strobe effect that confused their sensory organs. He walked past them while they were disoriented. 12 hours later, exhausted and bleeding from a dozen minor cuts, Do-yoon emerged from the caves. Krath stood waiting with Shalrax. First trial passed, Krath said with what might have been pride. You did not fight. You adapted. You survived through understanding, not violence. Shalrax said nothing, but his eyes showed grudging respect. The second trial came immediately. A massive stone structure with a single entrance. Inside was a puzzle trap, an ancient Vralkan test. You must reach the center chamber, Shalrax explained. The path requires sacrifice. Most Vralkan sacrifice treasures, weapons, possessions. What will you sacrifice? Human who owns nothing. Doyun entered the structure. The corridors shifted and changed based on some logic he could not initially grasp. There were pedestals where offerings could be placed. He tried small items from his kit, but nothing worked. The structure demanded something valuable. Then he understood. It was not about material value. It was about personal cost. Doyun took out his medical blade and cut his arm, letting blood fill a container. He placed it on the pedestal. The path shifted, opening. At each new pedestal, he gave more of his blood. By the time he reached the center chamber, he was dizzy from blood loss, but he had succeeded. When he emerged, Krath immediately stabilized him with Vralkan medical technology. Strength through sacrifice, Krath said. You gave yourself, literally. Even some Vralkan refused that cost. Shalrax's expression had changed. There was less hostility now. More curiosity. The third trial was the most direct. Single combat with Shalrax himself. In a ritual circle. I cannot hurt you without weapons, Doyun said. You will kill me in seconds. Then use your mind, Shalrax replied. Show me this strength of mercy that Krath speaks of. The fight was brutal and one-sided. Doyun dodged and ran, using every trick he knew. He lured Shalrax into stumbling over, deliberately placed obstacles. He used reflective surfaces to disorient, but it was not enough. Within minutes, he was on the ground. Shalrax's claws at his throat. You fought well for prey, Shalrax said. But you lose. Doyun could barely breathe, but he forced out words. I was not trying to win. Shalrax paused. Explain. You wanted to see my strength, Doyun said. Fighting you with violence would prove nothing. But I can show you what I am. He met Shalrax's eyes. I choose mercy. Even now, even with your claws at my throat, I would help you if you were hurt. Silence filled the chamber. Shalrax stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, the elder Vralkan withdrew his claws and stepped back. You win through losing, Shalrax said quietly. You show strength by refusing to match my violence. You offer mercy when you should offer hate. He turned to the assembled Vralkan. I challenged because I feared mercy was weakness. I was wrong. This human shows that mercy requires more courage than violence. More strength than domination. Shalrax extended his hand to Doyun, helping him stand. Blood-brother bond is accepted, Shalrax declared. Humans have shown us something we forgot. True apex predator does not need to prove strength through cruelty. Doyun has passed all trials not by becoming like us, but by remaining himself. Krath approached, his 6 eyes glowing with pride. Welcome, little brother. You have done the impossible. Doyun collapsed then, exhaustion finally claiming him. But as darkness took him, he heard the Vralkan voices raised in what he recognized as celebration. He had survived. More importantly, he had changed minds. 2 months after the trials, the Vralkan formally joined the Galactic Coalition, but with unusual conditions. They would provide military support and share technology. But they specifically requested that humans lead all joint diplomatic missions. The other coalition races were confused by this preference, but the Vralkan were clear about their reasoning. Warriors we have seen throughout galaxy, Krath explained to the Coalition Council. Humans show us something different, something galaxy has forgotten in endless wars. They show us that strength can heal, not just harm. Doyun found himself promoted from outpost medic to diplomatic liaison, a position he never wanted and felt completely unprepared for. He worked alongside Captain Choi, Lee Jiwoo, and Park Minha, forming a team that bridged human and Vralkan cultures. The change in how other species viewed humans was immediate and dramatic. What had been seen as weakness, empathy, cooperation, mercy was now reconsidered as a valid form of strength. After all, if the legendary apex predators respected these qualities, perhaps they had value. But not everyone was pleased with humanity's sudden rise in status. Some felt threatened by the shift in power dynamics. Others genuinely believed that military might was the only true strength. Then came the crisis that would test everything. The warning arrived without preamble. Long-range sensors detected a massive fleet entering Coalition space from beyond the galactic rim. Ships by the thousands, all moving in perfect coordination. The Ravager swarm, a force that had destroyed entire civilizations in other parts of the galaxy. They were controlled by a single hive mind and showed no interest in communication or diplomacy. They simply consumed everything in their path. Coalition command mobilized immediately. Every available ship was called to defensive positions. The Vralkan prepared their warriors. Even the Krathians, normally proud and confident, looked worried. The swarm had numbers that made victory through conventional warfare nearly impossible. Doyun stood in the strategy room aboard the Coalition flagship, surrounded by military commanders and tactical experts. Commander Vex Thor, who now treated Doyun with cautious respect, presented the battle plan. "We established defensive lines at these positions," Vex Thor said, highlighting areas on the tactical display. "We cannot match their numbers, but concentrated firepower at choke points may slow their advance. We estimate 40% casualties on our side, but it may buy time for evacuation of core worlds. 40% casualties. Millions of lives." Doyun felt sick. "Is there no way to communicate with them?" Li Jiwu asked. She had been studying the swarm's behavior patterns for days. "They have never responded to any communication attempt," a Thoraxian admiral replied. "They are mindless drones, driven only to consume." "Nothing is mindless," Doyun said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. Every living thing has a reason for its behavior. If the swarm is controlled by a hive mind, then there is an intelligence behind it. We need to understand that intelligence. 24. "We do not have time for understanding," Vex Thor argued. "They will be here in 3 cycles. Then we make time," Doyun insisted. He turned to Li Jiwu. "You said their movement patterns have been erratic in the last few observations. Why?" Jiwu pulled up her data. "The swarm's coordination has degraded by approximately 12% over the last week. Individual ships occasionally break formation before correcting. I attributed it to sensor errors. What if it is not an error?" Doyun studied the data, his medical training seeing patterns others missed. Krath, who had been silent until now, leaned forward. "You believe swarm is in pain?" "Paina. I believe something is wrong with their control system," Doyun said. "A healthy organism does not behave erratically. If we can identify what is wrong, maybe we can fix it." "Fix it?" a Krathian general scoffed. "You want to heal the enemy that comes to destroy us?" "I want to understand them," Doyun corrected. "Understanding gives us options that violence does not." Captain Choi stepped forward. "It is a risk, but Doyun has a point. Our current strategy leads to massive casualties with no guarantee of success. If there is another way, we should explore it." Shalrax, who now served as a Vralkan representative, made a rumbling sound. In the old times, Vralkan had mercy caste, healers who saw enemies not as things to kill but as beings to understand. We thought them weak and cast them aside. We forgot their wisdom. He looked at Doyun. "Perhaps now, we remember." The decision was made. Doyun would lead a small team to infiltrate the swarm flagship and attempt to reach the Queen. It was the most dangerous mission imaginable. The Vralkan would provide escort and protection, with Krath personally commanding the strike force. Park Minha would handle technical systems. Li Jiwu would analyze the biology in real time. Captain Choi would coordinate with the main fleet. "If this fails, we all die," Vex Thor said bluntly before they departed. But perhaps Doyun is right. Perhaps there is strength in mercy that we have not fully understood. The infiltration ship was small and fast, coated with stealth technology. It slipped through the swarm's outer defenses, while coalition forces engaged them directly as a distraction. Do-Yun watched through the viewport as thousands of swarm ships moved like a dark tide. The swarm flagship was massive, easily 50 times larger than any coalition vessel. Its surface writhed with organic material and biomechanical systems. Krath and 5 other Vralkan led the way, their superior senses detecting patrol patterns and threats. They moved through corridors that seemed grown rather than built, everything pulsing with alien life. "The readings are getting stronger," Jiwoo said, her scanner beeping rapidly. "The Queen is in the central chamber, but—" She paused, her expression troubled. "Do-Yun, her vital signs are chaos. She is dying." They encountered swarm drones as they pushed deeper. The Vralkan fought with terrifying efficiency, their movements a blend of grace and lethal power. But Do-Yun noticed something. The drones' attacks were uncoordinated, desperate. They were not functioning properly. Finally, they reached the central chamber. The Queen was enormous, a being the size of a small building. Her form was both beautiful and alien, covered in bioluminescent patterns that pulsed irregularly. Dozens of tubes and organic connections linked her to the ship's systems. And there, embedded in her neural structure, Do-Yun saw it, a parasitic infection. Massive, aggressive. It was eating away at her brain, driving her to madness with constant pain. The swarm was not an invasion force. It was a dying queen, lashing out in agony, unable to control her children properly. "She is suffering," Do-Yun whispered. "All of this destruction, because she is in pain and cannot stop it." "Can you help her?" Krath asked. Do-Yun examined the infection with his scanner. It was unlike anything in medical databases, but the principles were familiar. Parasitic organisms had weaknesses. They could be targeted, treated, eliminated. "I can try," Do-Yun said. "But I will need to get close to her. She might see me as a threat. Then we make her understand you are not," Krath said. He stepped forward and spoke in a language Do-Yun did not recognize. It was deeper than sound, vibrating through the air itself. The Queen's massive eyes focused on them. Krath continued speaking, and somehow Do-Yun understood the meaning if not the words. Krath was telling her they came to help, not harm. That the small being approaching her was a healer, not a warrior. The Queen's eyes found Do-Yun. Even through the pain, there was intelligence there. Terrible, ancient intelligence. She could kill him with a thought, but she did not. Do-Yun approached slowly, each step a conscious choice to trust. He placed his hands on her massive form and began working. Park Min-ha helped set up medical equipment, though it looked absurdly small against the Queen's size. Jiwoo analyzed the parasite's biology, finding weaknesses. Hours passed. Do-Yun worked with the same focus and determination he had shown in the cave with Krath. He synthesized compounds, injected treatments, and carefully burned away infected tissue. The Queen shuddered with pain, but did not strike at him. She understood. Slowly, the infection receded. The erratic pulsing of her bioluminescence became steady. Her breathing, which had been labored, eased, and then she spoke. Not in words, but directly into their minds. "Pain, gone. First time in. Cycles. You helped." "Why?" "Oh." Do-Yun looked up at her enormous eyes. "Because you were suffering. Because I am a healer. Because all life deserves compassion. My children. I made them. Destroy. Could not. Control. Pain was everything. Your children can be controlled again," Do-Yun said gently. "The infection is gone. You can stop the attack." The Queen was silent for a long moment. Then, throughout the ship, throughout the entire fleet, the swarm stopped moving. Thousands of ships simply halted in space. Coalition forces, prepared for mutual destruction, watched in amazement as the enemy ceased all hostile action. You gave mercy when deserved, death The Queen's voice echoed in their minds. You saw. Being in pain. Not monster to destroy. This is rare. So rare. It does not have to be, Doyun said. We can help you. We can help your swarm find a place to live without destroying others. If you are willing. The Queen's laughter was like wind through vast chambers. Little healer. You offer. Alliance. To one who came. To consume you. You are. Strange species. Wonderful. Strange. When Doyun's team returned to the coalition fleet, they brought with them something impossible. An agreement. The swarm would cease hostilities. The Queen, freed from pain and madness, was willing to discuss coexistence. She recognized that these beings had shown her mercy when they could have chosen extermination. The celebration throughout coalition space was immense. What should have been their darkest moment became their greatest victory, achieved without the massive casualties everyone had expected. In the aftermath, Doyun was promoted to the newly created position of First Ambassador of Diplomatic Understanding. It was a role designed specifically for situations where violence was not the answer. He worked closely with both Vral Khan and Swarm representatives, building bridges where once there had only been walls. One evening, Doyun stood in an observation room aboard Coalition Central Station, looking out at the stars. Krath joined him, the massive Vral Khan moving with quiet grace. You changed everything, little brother, Krath said. Galaxy spent countless cycles believing strength meant only the ability to destroy. You showed us strength can also mean ability to heal, to understand, to choose mercy when vengeance would be easier. I just did what felt right, Doyun said. That is the point, Krath replied. For you, mercy is natural. It is not weakness to overcome, but strength to embrace. Other races are learning this now. Slowly. Thanks to you. Park Minha and Li Jiwoo entered the observation room, followed by Captain Choi and even Commander Vex Thor. They had all become close during the crisis. Bound by shared experience. The Council wants to honor you, Captain Choi said. They are calling you the Mercy Maker. The one who won wars without fighting. Doyun smiled slightly. I prefer just being called a medic. You are more than that now, Vex Thor said. The Krathian commander who had once dismissed humans as weak now looked at Doyun with genuine respect. You proved that my understanding of strength was incomplete. You have taught this old warrior new ways to see the universe. We all learned, Doyun said, looking at each of his friends and colleagues. That is what matters. Not that one species or one individual was right, but that we all grew together. Krath placed a massive hand on Doyun's shoulder, careful not to hurt his small blood brother. When I named you blood brother, I thought I gave you honor. But now I understand. You gave honor to me. You showed me what my people had forgotten. What Galaxy had forgotten. What was that? Jiwoo asked. That true apex predator, Krath said, his 6 eyes glowing softly in the starlight. Does not need to prove strength through cruelty or domination. True apex predator is strong enough to choose mercy. Strong enough to heal instead of harm. Strong enough to see enemy as being who might simply need help. Doyun looked out at the stars again, at the vast galaxy full of different species, different cultures, different ways of understanding existence. He thought about how he had been called weak, how humans had been dismissed as inferior. And he thought about how everything had changed, not through violence or force, but through simple compassion. He was considered weak, Park Minha said suddenly, as if reading his thoughts. Until the apex predator named him blood brother, and then everyone had to reconsider what strength really meant. I was always just myself, Doyun said quietly. Outside the window, ships from dozens of species moved in peaceful coordination. Human vessels flew alongside Vralkan hunters and swarm bioships. It was a sight that would have been impossible just months ago. But now it was reality. The galaxy was changing, not because anyone forced it to change, but because one medic had chosen compassion over fear, understanding over violence, mercy over vengeance, and in doing so, He had shown everyone humans, Vralcon, Swarm, and all the others that there were many kinds of strength, and sometimes, the greatest strength of all was the courage to be kind in a universe that often rewarded cruelty. Doyun smiled, surrounded by friends who had once been strangers, standing in a station that represented unity between species who had once been enemies. He had not set out to change the galaxy. He had simply tried to help someone in pain. But sometimes, that was exactly what the galaxy needed.